First caller, it looks like Leo, you were diagnosed with depression. You're on with Ethan and Jenna. How are you?
Hello, Leo.
Good. How are you guys doing?
Doing well, thank you.
Pretty good, actually.
Hello.
Awesome. So what did you want to talk about?
Yeah, I had a whole different thing, but on the depression thing, look, I was hard in depression for about 2 years after my mom passed away, and
Sorry to hear that.
really low. I had got the medication one time, got back on, and I hit a very low point again. And anyway, it was my ex. I went over. My ex saw how I was doing. She called me over. I stayed at her house for a week with her and my kids. We went on runs, talked, and just some of the things she told me got me off the medication. I think it's some people who are going through depression, if you find the right motivation or the right thing to look forward to, you can get over it without the medication.
Maybe.
Okay.
Well, let's try not to make blanket statements, because it is possible to get over things without medication. And it also is not possible for people to get over things without medication. So it depends on the person. It depends on the situation. We definitely don't want to tell people to stop taking medications when we don't know their situation.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, that's very true. I apologize for that. Very true.
That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is where I don't recommend this to anybody, but I do this myself. You should always talk to obviously a medical professional before you start making changes. But my health, because of epilepsy and depression, was in the toilet for so long, and the doctors I were going to were just not helping in the way that I needed. So I took my mental health into my own hands. I started looking into things, and that's when I started actually experimenting myself. And when I improved, and I changed my medications on my own. Again, I'm not recommending that for other people, but I am glad in my situation, because I wasn't getting the help I needed. I found a way to take my mental health into my own hands. And there are so many different ways to help improve that, like, working out, talking to people, even trying to educate yourself as much as possible, like learning about your conditions, in my opinion, can really make a difference in how you process, perceive, and deal with them.
Yes. When I was first going through the depression, I was putting myself down way too much. And I mean, yes, the medication, they did help. They did. Don't get me wrong. But at some point, I felt like I was taking a real bad turn. And I was just saying that it's just, you should always go to your professional, of course. But I took it into my own hands, because I started feeling myself more downer. And then the doctor started only wanting to talk every 2 months. So I was like, I have 60 days. So I started using those 60 days in my time and with the medication. But I don't get, like, how it can make you more, down, you know? You have to watch out for that back kick, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So I'm going to answer your question as best of my knowledge, but again, we are not mental health professionals. You really should be talking to a doctor about this, especially, but I understand that we are basically giving consent to vent by saying, call us, we listen. So we are welcoming people to talk about these things. I just want to be very, very clear that we are not giving any kind of expert medical or mental health advice.
Agreed.
I do want to say that from what I've learned from my own experience with antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications and trying this and trying that is, one, the reason that you want to stick with your doctor all the way through, even when you decide that it's not working for you and you want to get off of it, is because depending on how much you're taking and how often you're taking it and how long you've been taking it, if you stop taking an antidepressant, and I believe an anti-anxiety medication, I believe that those are in the same group, but I'm not sure about that. But if you take if you stop taking these medications too quickly, you can severely hurt yourself. You can go ahead.
No, finish. I'm just letting you know I could speak on that, but go ahead, finish what you were saying.
But I was trying to make that point very clear, and then I was going to move on. Go ahead. So
me, Leo, when I was having epilepsy, I was on 3 different seizure medicines, antidepressants, anti-anxiety meds, ADHD medication, injections in my stomach. It was just like a never-ending compound of medications. And I did take my mental health into my own hands, which was one of the smartest decisions I ever made. But it did come with setbacks because I was at that time like of the opinion that my neurologist just sucked and wasn't helping me. I wasn't going to listen to her anymore, and I wasn't going to take her advice. So once the seizures stopped, despite, the doctor's wishes, I just started getting off all my medication. And I was just like, okay, I'm done with this. And I quit everything in a short period of time. Well, months later, that came back to haunt me because once everything had cleared my system, so I'm going to try and explain this as best as I can. I may be misinterpreting it because, again, I'm not a medical professional, but this is just how I understood it. But because I got off so many things at so many times, when that all left my system, my brain wasn't ready or balanced to deal with stress. So it set me like off the deep end. And I went into like crying fits of shaking and like crying and like, oh my God, I don't want to be here. Like it screwed me up. So that was probably an irresponsible decision as well on my part.
Yeah. So that's just.
My doctor.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to let you respond, and then we can move on to my next topic.
Oh no, it said I was just gonna point that my doctor did when I asked him if I could get off. They told me not to, but I was like, I guess they saw that I really wanted to, so they gave me a plan. They said cut down. So it took me about 3 weeks after. I didn't go cold turkey. I quit. Like it took me like 3 weeks of what they said cutting down, taking one day, next day yes, and then so I did a cut down program through the doctor telling me.
That's good.
And
if you don't.
I feel.
If you flat out don't trust your doctor, you can get second, third, fourth, and fifth opinions. You can ask as many doctors and explain your situation and try to keep records on your own if you can too. I've tried this. I went up to this many milligrams, this frequency, and try to keep track on your own because sometimes the doctors, I don't know what that doctor's typing on that laptop of theirs. So if you can, I'd recommend keeping track of that. I'm sure there's plenty of apps out there to help with that. But get more opinions. If you don't trust your doctor, don't simply stop going. Find another doctor. But the next point that I wanted to make was you had asked a question. You said, why do some make you feel worse? And the thing is that I had started going on this deconversion journey that I went on and started learning about mental health. And a family member had learned about it and thought that they could be helpful because they found this book. And this book was called Change Your Brain, Change Your Life. I was like, that's interesting. Who's it by? Well, it's apparently by a psychologist. So I thought, hey, I'll check it out. I went and found like a sample of it. And it turns out that this book is basically trying to say that there's a way to get like a CAT scan of your brain and activate it in a certain way that certain parts light up. And there's like this magical medical cocktail that they can give you that is just going to alter your state of mind around perfectly the way that you want it to be. And then it's just a one and done kind of thing. I call bullshit. Mental health does not work that way. If somebody is down, well, there are very, very, very many ways to interpret down. There are different levels for different people, depending on the day, depending on the minute, depending on the year, depending on other things that are going on in their life, depending on things that may have gone in their life 50 years ago or whatever. It is so complicated. That's why it's important to pick a doctor that you trust and work with them consistently on getting your cocktail right. And it takes time. I'm just now getting my cocktail right. And then I got pregnant and now it's all off again. It's going to be off for who knows how long, but at least I found somebody who can work with me in a way that I trust. Because so Ethan and I have very similar personalities. We both seem to have ADHD and autism, possibly. So you could say, well, give them the same drug. It'll work for them both. Yeah, but you don't know that Ethan's also had epilepsy and I've got PTSD. You know, it's like there's other things that add in to each person. And then you add there's just the variety of the billions of different kinds of people that there are. You know, it's complicated. So you can't expect to just go to a doctor and get a drug and just feel better right away. Sometimes that does happen. That happened with my gabapentin when I started taking gabapentin. But I've heard from so many people that gabapentin just puts them straight to sleep. That doesn't mean that it, you know. So do you see what I'm saying, Leo?
Yeah. Leo.
Yes, I see. My thing that was what got me away from my one of my first doctors was, I don't get it, but when they say, how does that compare? They say that medical marijuana is not good for depression. I've had two doctors tell me that, and one doctor say that it's okay. What's your opinions on the?
So I'm going to push back on this pretty hard. But again, I'm not an expert, but I think in my experience, the people I've talked to and the research I've done, marijuana can make a huge impact on your mental health. Like there are times when my anxiety is crippling and I go smoke and all of a sudden I'm like, phew. But in addition, there are strains that are specifically meant for depression. And that's why, unfortunately, there's a lot of time doctors just don't, the medical community itself don't know enough about cannabis. They think
they push pharma.
They push pharmaceuticals, or they don't realize like how different every strain is. Like if you have, let's say you have digestive issues, there is a strain of marijuana specific to that. Let's say you have depression, there is a strain specific to that. If you need energy, there is a strain for that. Like it is a medicine with almost limitless capabilities, but like any other medication, you have to try and experiment to find what works for you. For those who don't know, one more thing is, like if you go to leafly.com, you can put in the strain and you will get the positive effects, the negative effects, and the medicinal effects. And that is the best way to find what strain may work best for you. You know, for instance, sometimes. Leafly? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Leo?
Oh no, I was just saying, I was writing down that site that you said Leafly?
Yes, Leafley. It is a phenomenal resource for learning more about marijuana. Like when I was having my IBS issues, I found these thing called cronut capsules. It's a cronut strain, which is for all types of digestive inflammation. But the capsules include coconut oil, ginger, and turmeric. And, you know, a lot of the studies behind marijuana are really awesome. And there's a lot of research out there that can help.
Okay. One, there are not a lot of studies on marijuana. There are things that there's just not enough research that has been done on marijuana.
Sorry. I agreed with Jenna. And a lot of that is because of the legalities. People, the medical community hasn't had time to do these tests and trials on them. We're only now starting to do it. So there is a lot we don't know. My main point is that it is an option, and I do recommend looking into it.
The thing is about the other thing is when you have people that are really like pushing vitamins for mental health recovery, right? Like the vitamin C packets and, you know, all of this, like there's several like pharmaceutical type things that you can get at like the fancy, like central markets, right? Where there are like these vitamins that can boost your mental energy. From what I've learned about vitamins, and again, neither one of us are mental health professionals, and we really should change the topic back to what we want to talk about rather than giving advice on medicine.
And we do have a bunch of callers. So.
Yes, but I do want to say that when you give blanket statements about when you're finding marijuana blank, people in Texas, people where I am that are looking for marijuana are not going to find what you're talking about. They're going to find somebody who is growing it in their backyard, who sold it to somebody, who sold it to somebody, who sold it to somebody. There is no record of what you're getting if you're getting it in Texas, because it is still illegal. It is it is not, this is not regulated everywhere. And so depending on where you are, you may have access to regulated stuff like this that you're talking about. And if you're looking into using this medically, then yes, that's a good way to go about it. But if you're not where Ethan is and you're where I am, be very, very careful when somebody tells you, oh, well, this strain is this, because people don't necessarily know that here. Go ahead.
That's true. One thing I have noticed, and it is, if you're buying directly from somebody who grows, most of them, in my experience, are usually pretty knowledgeable and will be transparent about what they're growing or tell you what strain it is. However, as Jenna said, it's not regulated. So of course you don't 100% know, where Illinois has the strictest and stringiest marijuana growing guidelines in the country.
Right. But that's one state.
Awesome. But that's, one state where it's...
And we're broadcasting across the world.
Right.
So we have to be very careful when we make blanket statements like that about when you're looking for marijuana, that there are strains for this or whatever, because that's not necessarily the case everywhere. And even if... So you're saying that in Illinois, it is FDA regulated?
Oh, sorry. No, it's not FDA regulated, but Illinois has the regulations in place which keep it of the up, like I believe it's B grade, which is the highest, best standards for cleanliness rules, the way you have to create everything. It's like Illinois weed is really good. However, I did recently learn, which I still have to look more into, just to confirm, is that while the vape cartridges are the absolute best quality, and you cannot get them any better and safer anywhere else in the country. The marijuana doesn't have ideal growing conditions in Illinois. So there are other states that have better weed because the growing conditions are more ideal. And that's why we really need to get this federally legal, because then states can purchase marijuana from other states, and then we get great mixes, we get more options available like this. And I recently learned that apparently veterans will lose their benefits if they get a medical marijuana card. And that's because it's federally illegal.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, but if you think about how regulated wine is, right? Wine is extremely regulated. And the thing is that it's very nuanced. When you say the best wine comes from France, well, what does that mean? When you say, you know what I mean? So when you get wine from France and you get wine from, South America, you're going to get very different kinds of wine. And the regulations that say that it's good wine are going to be very different. Even country to country in Europe, there are different regulations. So when you say the regulations say that this is the best weed, that's very nuanced.
Yes. And I'd also like to say earlier, I did say, which when I said that oftentimes medical professionals don't know enough about marijuana, I am not saying that I am a medical professional and I know more. The reason I said that was there is not a lot, they don't learn this in medical school. They're not being taught about marijuana.
We don't know what they're being taught. They could be being taught that this is absolutely harmful, and I don't know what they're being taught.
Right, but there is no current formal marijuana education from my understanding, and that's why I was making that, I guess, assertion that they don't always know the best. But
we're still in the beginning steps of this marijuana thing.
Yes.
So
Yes.
like eventually all that, like California, like they're so regulated. Yet, like from what I hear, you have to be able to prove from where it was grown, the seed, all the way to the store. That's why now it's sold in bags, and now you can't just pick it. It's like California is very well regulated, from what I'm assuming. You know.
That's good.
I was just called out.
Go ahead.
I just got called out. I did apparently misspeak. I guess this has since changed. Veterans, according to this article on militarybenefits.info, veterans will not lose VA benefits for discussing medical marijuana with their providers. So I was incorrect. I apologize.
Thank you.
We do have to wrap up this call, Leo. Is there anything you wanted to have the last word on real quick?
And hopefully can it try to be about emotional consent or venting rather than drugs.
Okay, no, I just want to say I appreciate you guys for the show, for letting me on talk. I love how you think. You go to like the extra deeper layer to think. I love the way you think. Ethan, I appreciate your time, man.
No, thank you so much. It was nice talking to you, Leo.
Yeah, thank you for calling.
All right, I'll see you guys on the next one.
All right.
Good luck with your drug cocktail journey.